Welcome back to Why'd You Push That Button? Season 2 starts today, which might be a fun little surprise for you because honestly, we haven't done a great job of remembering to talk about it on Twitter. Our first episode is about memes and the law, which sounds both boring and scary and is neither. First, we chatted with Vox Media's Sarah Reynes, who told us an unsettling story about her first viral tweet. In short, her life was turned a little upside down, because she made a meme using a photo of some birds, and did not realize the birds were someone's family. Fair enough, Sarah, but maybe all of our listeners will learn from your mistakes. Our first episode is about memes and the law, which sounds both boring and scary and is neither. Then we talked to Drew Scanlon, best known as the white guy blinking meme. He told us all about how his life has changed since his eyelids became the most famous ones on the whole internet. Honestly, it doesn't sound that bad. But I would probably have less patience with my friends and acquaintances than Drew does. He says it doesn't even bother him when they introduce him to people as the blinking guy. Related how memes evolved from dancing babies to an everyday part of internet life. Finally, we talked to Tim Hwang about all the legal issues buzzing around these stories. He's a lawyer, as well as the founder of the meme convention Rufflekin, and the director of Harvard and MIT's Ethics and Governance of AI initiative. You can listen and read the transcript below, or find us anywhere else you find podcasts, including on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play Music, and our RSS feed. And get caught up on Season 1, if you're late to the party. Caitlin Tiffany, so, to be honest with you, when we decided to do this episode we had no idea how copyright plays into memes. It was kind of an idle question like, does it? We don't even know. If you could explain in which ways it does and in which ways it doesn't a little bit, that would be very useful to our audience and to us. Ashley Carmen, if you find a photo on the internet, can you just use it? Tim Hwang, right, so it's a big, open question and has been a big, open question on the internet for some time. So I think that the place to start from this is actually from the basics, which is, what is the internet, and what does it do in culture? I think one way of thinking about what social media is and what internet culture is that it's in some ways a huge photocopier. You can take an image, you can do something to it, you can share it out again. It's a pretty permissionless sort of culture, right? You see cool content online, there's nothing stopping you from taking it and using it. And this has been, on one hand, I think, one of the things that have made internet culture so vibrant, and so active and so good, I guess, at producing things that are just kind of amazingly funny, or certainly striking in the very least, and that's been the case on the internet for a long time. It was old by the time that we were running Rufflekin in 2008, and we've seen another decade since that conference first got started. I think, on one hand, one way of thinking about all of this is that the internet has kind of enabled this sort of amazing culture where it's possible for you to take and iterate on something, and that process happens really rapidly. I think one of the most interesting things about the internet is how people can sort of build on one another and constantly come up with jokes within jokes, and so at a certain point, it's sort of impossible to understand unless you've been part of this rich sharing of jokes and internal references. And the law has played a really interesting role in all of this. I think in some ways copyright law is just sort of not ready for a lot of what the internet brought to the table. For sure, we saw it initially in the case of things like music, but increasingly everything is sort of memified, which is one of the things that makes it really complicated. Now, under copyright law, it's true, you do have sort of the legal rights to challenge someone. Certainly under the DMCA, you have the right to get that content taken down off of a platform, if it violates your copyright. And copyright is very broad from a legal perspective. The minute I create something, I have copyrights. I have rights over that content, and so really anything I create, if it is taken by someone else without my permission and copied and shared, I do theoretically have the right under the law to get it taken down, to control it, to protect and constrain that content. Now, the complicated thing is that copyright has existed in limbo because, at least under United States law, we have what's known as fair use, right? Under the law, basically, the idea is that culture evolves because people can take culture and use it for their own purposes, and the doctrine of fair use basically says that under a specific set of circumstances you can take that content and use it as your own. And so those two things have always been kind of in tension with one another on the internet. So on one hand, people say, well, this is under my rights under the copyright system, and I should be able to take things down. On the other hand, it's a battle with fair use, which can include things like, oh, well, I'm using this for the purposes of parody, or, I'm changing it in such a way that lets me use it without you being able to control it. It's a really fuzzy area of law, which is one of the reasons why memes have proven so complicated, particularly as you think about how, back in 2008, I think it was just like, oh, yeah, lolkits are a thing, but now lots and lots of things are meme-like in the way they're designed. Caitlin. So one case that I was reading about that I thought was super interesting was the socially awkward penguin, which was considered the property of National Geographic. They had Getty Images basically pursue it for them to get people to take it down, which is something that makes sense to me.